Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a list of 10 science fiction and fantasy books that don't really have romance. This particular list is made up of both adult fantasy, young adult fantasy, a little bit of manga, and a little bit of video games, because in general I just find that no matter what kind of storytelling that you like, it's nice to know of some recommendations that maybe don't lean on or put romance at the forefront of the story. Just a little heads up about these recommendations. Some of them have characters that are in relationships, or maybe it seems like, at least in book one, there's a romance starting to form, but the romance is by no means the thing that the story is really known for. That said, the first recommendation is actually going to be a manga, and that would be Claymore. Claymore is a story that follows these female monster hunters, and it's pretty awesome. Our main character, Claire, is very kind of rigid and stoic and down to business. She is so cool. And there's also an anime that came out that's actually really what I've seen primarily of this story, and it's really cool. The monsters, they kind of level up, if you will, as our characters level up, so things keep getting more and more dangerous, the stakes keep getting raised, and there actually is some really interesting character development throughout these. The next recommendation would be basically anything by V.E. Schwab. I would definitely say that while there are characters who are attracted to one another, or maybe there are characters that over time may or may not end up together, their relationship and whether they have romantic feelings for one another, that is never at the forefront of this story. It's especially true, I think, of This Savage Song. There is a guy and there is a girl, but in this first one especially, I don't want to ruin anything, I don't want to spoil anything, but the premise of the story is that people's terrible actions end up turning into monsters. And it's our own world, but there are monsters now because people can't not commit bad things. So our main characters are just kind of trying to navigate in this world. One of them is a human, and one of them is one of the monsters who feels more human than monster, and it's kind of them seeing the humanity in one another. A Darker Shade of Magic is about a character who can go between parallel Londons, and something gets from one London to the other London that shouldn't get there, and so now they're trying to make sure the world doesn't end, basically. And so the stakes are extremely high, and those are definitely the significant parts of what are propelling the story forward and are what are making our characters act. About 100 pages into this book, it's non-stop, I would say, until the end, and the characters, they really don't have the time to sit back and be like, do we like each other? V.E. Schwab has also written the book Vicious. There's not a romance, really. There's one character that has a girlfriend, but it's really about these two anti-heroes who are trying to fight it out. Next up would be Temeraire by Naomi Novik. This is a story that is set in the Napoleonic era, except for there are dragons. So it's kind of an alternate history, and it's a ton of fun. And the main focus of the story, I would say, would be the relationship between the dragon and his handler, and it's fantastic. I absolutely loved seeing the relationship between them. Temeraire, the dragon, is the cutest thing. Oh my gosh, if you could just imagine puppies talking, that's basically what this dragon is like. And the story, while maybe somebody in the story ends up meeting somebody and they like each other, it's very subtle. It's very underplayed. The main focus is the relationship between the guy and his dragon, and battling it out, because that's what they're there for. They're basically the Air Force, and it's awesome. Switching it up now, I'm gonna mention a video game that doesn't have any romance. Our main character is so cool, and the premise is really interesting, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn. Our main character, Aloy, is amazing. She's just very efficient and strong and has a strong will, and she kicks so much butt, and she's so fun to be with as our main protagonist. And the premise of the story is it's kind of sort of like there was some kind of apocalypse, and everybody has basically gone back to being almost like caveman-like days, and Aloy, our main character, has to fight what are these leftover robotic dinosaur, robotic animal type things, and she's kind of trying to figure out where they came from, why do they attack people, and what the heck does she have to do with any of it? Next recommendation I'm gonna give, sticking with science fiction, would be Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I have definitely been talking about this book a lot. It was one of my favorite reads from 2018, and I'm talking a lot about it because I really liked it. I really liked it. It definitely leans a little more toward the younger side of young adult, but it's one of those stories that I feel like people of all ages can like. It follows our main character named Spensa. Her and part of humanity are trying to survive on this planet that is constantly being attacked by aliens, and Spensa has the dream to become a pilot because those are about the only people that can defend mankind against these aliens. And she is just like Aloy, actually. She's very strong-willed, she's got a purpose, and she is always doing what she can to achieve what she feels is the right thing to do and what would make her a hero, and she just so badly wants to save people and be a hero. And along the way she has a great character arc, so much action, extremely fast-paced, and really no romance. I apologize. I'm aware I talk about Brandon Sanderson a lot, but I'm gonna mention him again and say that there's really no romance in The Way of Kings. Seems almost impossible as this book is over 1,000 pages, but while there is one character who has somebody that has the hots for them, I would say there really isn't a romance. This book is very much about the characters and the character development and the character arcs, and where they go from the beginning of the story to where they end up is amazing. It is so satisfying. You are not going to want to stop. Well, I mean, I can't speak for everybody. Some people don't like it, but I personally, when I got to the last chunk, the last 200-300 pages, did not want to stop. It doesn't have romance really, but it does have fantastic character relationships. Some of the friendships and the pairings are so phenomenal, and there's a reason that people always talk about Bridge 4. If you've heard about Bridge 4, it's because it's the best group of fellas in fiction. Going back to video games, and I'm sorry, this is very old and very beat up, but Final Fantasy VII, if you can stand the very dated graphics and the fact that there are no voice actors and you have to read everything, oh my gosh, is the story amazing. Confusing, but amazing. Initially, we follow our main character named Cloud, who is just this ex-soldier, and he joins up with this group who's kind of going against the government, and then that just turns into a whole lot more. There are definitely characters that seem like they may have feelings for one another in this story, but there is never a moment where we're stopping the story so that the characters can talk about how much they love each other. So I would still consider this to be a fantastic story that doesn't necessarily contain romance. It is one of my favorite stories. I know the graphics are not great, but hey, they are remaking it, and if they get it out anytime soon, I'm sure it's gonna be amazing and it's gonna blow my mind. My next recommendation would be Fullmetal Alchemist. Oddly, I actually do love some of the couples in this story a lot, but within the story, I don't know that you could even really say there's a romance. I don't think there's a romance. That's why I've got it on this list. I absolutely love the character relationships. I love the characters, all the characters, good guys, bad guys. Oh my gosh, they have such depth. I talk about it all the time, and I say the same things all the time. It's about these two brothers, Edward and Alphonse. Elric, who lost a lot of themselves in an attempt to bring their mother back using alchemy, and it didn't go so well. And they end up, in their efforts to find a way to restore themselves, they get caught up in a lot of stuff, and that is kind of how we get all these other characters getting more of the story time than you might expect. It's not really just about the two brothers. It's so good. It is so good. And the fact that it can have so many characters and so many great character relationships and so much humor and not rely on romance to make you want to turn the page, I think is, it's admirable almost. It's really great. It's really great. Next up, we have the Dresden Files. This follows a wizard in our own world named Harry Dresden. And Harry Dresden goes on dates. He goes on dates and he likes the ladies, and sometimes the ladies like him, but I would by no means say that this is a story where romance really is the overwhelming thing that pushes the plot forward. It's not. He's basically a detective, and he's always trying to solve these somewhat paranormal murders or things of that sort. And it's so entertaining. Harry Dresden is hilarious. These are so much fun. And yeah, there's really not romance. My last recommendation is a book that currently there is only one out, So who knows? In the future, some of the characters might end up together, but within this first book, nobody ever professes, well, okay, I don't want to ruin the story for anybody who's going to pick it up. I don't want to say to the extent that characters are and are not possibly in love or not in love. So I'll just say the book, Shadow of the Fox. It is really, I think, a fun story. If you like traveling stories, I would definitely recommend it. We follow these two characters, Yumeko and Tatsumi. Yumeko is this sweet girl who was raised by monks, but she's a little mischievous, a little bit naive, and she has some fox powers, a little bit of illusion powers. And then she gets paired up with Tatsumi, who is this samurai ninja character, and they are trying to get from point A to point B. That's what makes it a traveling story, and they're very different. Their personalities are extremely different, and I absolutely loved the way in which they would grow as individuals by seeing how the other is. And I really liked that it's a bit of a random story. Because it's a traveling story, things kind of just happen. But if you like traveling stories, if you like anime, I definitely would recommend this. That's it for my science fiction and fantasy recommendations that don't have romance at the forefront of the story. I know a lot of you are like me where you don't mind romance, but it's nice to have a story that it's not about the love. It's nice every now and then. But anyway, let me know if you have any recommendations for stories that don't have a very significant love story in it. But anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.